due to some dude content, this video is going to be strictly a audio-only type of podcast. If you can't just look at something with listening to voice and stuff, tune out. Hey folks, Dude here, coming to you on, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's another day in the world, so I'll be talking to you today about something that is solving a problem that never really needed to get solved. I'm talking to you about M855A1 Enhanced Performance Round. Oh, man. Okay, so anyway, what it is in the 5.56 family, also known as the 223, but in NATO spec, it's going to be referred to as the 5.56 by 4.5mm NATO. This is the smaller caliber cartridge that is chambered, of course, in M4 carbines, the M16s, A3s, A4s, M249 saw, and of course, anything up to and including H&K. Yeah, with the prices you guys charge, the feeling is mutual. Steyr stuff, you know, all the smaller caliber weapons are going to be chambered in 5.56mm. Translation, 223. No, sound guy, that was 223, not duty. So anyway, this comprises the how did we get here? Okay, well, how did we get here is essentially the M16 came about in the early 60s, late 50s, and it was utilizing a fairly high-intensity cartridge for its time. It was utilizing a 55 grain bullet, moving out at about 3,200, maybe almost 3,300 feet per second. It was a hot rod little cartridge. Gene Stoner, when he designed the weapon system, utilized a 1 in 14 twist. Now, that works really good if you're trying to make a bullet that just kind of goes in and goes, "Hi, how you doing? Look, soft tissue medium. Oh, look, it comprises a fluid matrix. I am going to expend all my energy right about here." And it proceeds to go in and makes a heck of a mess of things. The wound track is pretty massive considering the cartridge energy dump of about 900 foot-pounds or so. So it punches above its weight class most assuredly. But the only problem is when they made the cartridge with the 1 in 14 twist, it was not good in cold temperatures. The bullet wouldn't stabilize, it would keyhole massively, and of course, your range would be ridiculous for those guys running and gunning in colder climates. Read like the guys in the Weekend Warriors, read like the Army Reserve guys and what have you guys up in Alaska, and it just didn't work good. So what they did essentially was they switched up the caliber, not at all, but they said, let's address the issue in its extant, and we'll give it a faster rifling twist of 1 in 12. Flash ahead to Vietnam. It was a particularly nasty little cartridge to still get hit with. Extended ranges, unfortunately, because it is a very light bullet moving at a very high velocity. It carries some velocity to a certain degree, and then once you get to a certain amount of range, it is pretty much just punching like you're poking a pencil through somebody's arm, or a sewing needle, or a big knitting needle. Now, comprising that aspect, if you hit bone, it's not good for you, but if you just punch a hole through somebody, you're pretty much just, you know, they're like, ow, ow, mosquito bite, you know, they're not really stopping, especially if they're hyped up on, you know, some assorted yummies and, the assorted yummies were very popular back in, well, let's just say some Asian continents. So flashing ahead currently to where we are now, they were saying, okay, we need something really truly does much better, and they came up with what was referred to as the SS-109/M855 NATO ball. No, sound guy, it wasn't like an ED commercial. It's not like they needed to have that kind of a, you just stop, okay? Just stop pulling those things out of the ethers.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, serves you right. Looks like Frankston beans. Now, of all things, it was designed in the late 1970s in Belgium by FN Herstal, so Fabrique Nationale, all the good stuff like that there. And it consisted of the SS-109, the SS-110, and the SS-111 cartridges. I guess that would be like the standard ball, slight armor-piercing, tracer, and, well, let's just see what those numbers mean.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
You know what? Google's not feeling charitable. Screw it. It's probably like tracer, and it's probably like a, you know, light armor piercing. But that's kind of what they said actually that needed to have happen about the SS-109/M855 in the first place, is they wanted something that actually could do more damage. So what they came up with is essentially, they came up with a round that was more effective than M193 ball. It could do 5mm or 3mm of mild steel or hardened steel, which was the comprising thing of the Russian. I guess it was their battle helmet. So it did work, it did do the job, and of course, you know, good stuff like that there. It did actually do very nicely in a 20-inch barrel. Once you went to carbines, which were 14.5, or if you went to the seal stuff, which was 11-inch or 10-inch barrels, every time you did that and you chop off barrel length, you make the M855 or 5.56 NATO less effective because it is a barrel length dependent cartridge. It needs all that extra room to get the extra horsepower. So anyway, the length up the breath essentially is now we are fielding mostly carbines. We're mostly fielding carbines, so these guys aren't running long guns anymore. They have something shorter that works better, and well, they said we need a more effective cartridge. Okay, well, let's just break this down just a little bit more here. Any of the military cartridges are not going to be made in the same thing as SAAMI. That would be SAAMI. That was a group of guys who were called the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute. So essentially what they do is they figure out like chamber specifications, chamber power level, chamber safe range, chamber danger range, chamber proof load range, and they say there are do not exceed numbers. And here's the other thing too. Even the way that they measure the pressure between NATO and SAAMI is different. NATO guys, PSI, which is pounds per square inch. SAAMI tend to use something called CUP or copper units of pressure. Now between these two measurements, there's parallels and there's kind of crossovers, but they're really kind of truly not the same thing. It's trying to like compare Coke and Pepsi. They're both cola, but they are not the same thing. So essentially what happened then is they came up with this smoking little cartridge, the 5.56/45 NATO, and it is a hot cartridge. Now, you can also go on about this whole thing about like the chamber throat for 223 versus 5.56, and yes, there is a difference between the two. Do not shoot 5.56 and 223. There's not enough room in the throat. There's not enough room in the lead. The cartridge neck can't open up enough. You're going to have hot rod pressures. The gun's going to go pop. And if you're lucky, it just goes bang. The pictures are up on the internet. You can see that stuff for yourself. Don't do it. It's stupid. Okay, also comprising the fact that 223, or the civilian equivalent, normally maxes out about 55,000 PSI. Crossing over to the military cartridge, the 5.56/45 NATO, it crosses over and it tends to run quite a bit hotter, about 62,000 PSI.
I've got balls of steel.
So it's already got a lot more
balls of steel
going on, and it's also got more
balls
going on in an area that you better have the right chamber, or that
balls of steel
is going to go uh-oh. Yeah, not good times. So now you have this hot rod little cartridge. You're shooting it in a shorter, compatible weapon system. Read like the M4 carbines, also known as the M forgeries when you make them as civilians, having to be forced to use, well, 16-inch barrels or 14.5-inch barrels with a permanently welded and pinned compensator, flash suppressor, call them what you will, to make it the required 16 inches to be legal by BATF standards. So they got this hot rod little M forgery. They're like, oh crap, we need something more.
I've got balls of steel.
We don't have enough
balls
for our
balls
to go
I've got balls of steel.
So they needed more
balls
for their
balls.
Okay, I'm being more
balls
than I probably should.
Balls.
Okay, so essentially you now have this 14.5-inch barrel or shorter, and you need something with more horsepower.
Balls.
Actually no, sound guy. Allow me. You got 65,000 copper units of pressure, read like, or 65,000 PSI, I think it was. The crossover is pretty close. I think it's like 62,000 copper units and 65,000 PSI. It's pretty close, a couple thousand PSI. But you know what? A couple thousand PSI is the difference between something safe and a proof round. Don't make your gun eat it all the time. Not good. What the heck was that sound, guy? It sounded like, well, you had a problem with a burrito, not like an overproof round. Ugh. Oh, I'm not going in there, okay? I'm just not. More explosions, okay? Less of that. Ugh. So they said we need something that's hotter, it's going to do the job, it basically hits better. So the M855 has been pretty much outclassed now by the M855A1. Or Alpha 1. Enhanced performance round. And by and large, you compare these things side by side, and yes, there is a difference. So, comparing the two side by side, the M855, the cartridge length the same, the bullet weight and length is the same, the tip ID is different. It is not a green painted tip anymore, now it is bronze with corrosion protection. The slug itself is copper. It's not lead. It's made to be a green cartridge. The cup or the jacket is copper. The penetrator is not just steel, but it's a steel arrowhead. Alright, sound guy, that one got a little close. Watch it. Corrosion resistance, there's none on the 855. The M855A1 EPR, or Enhanced Penetration Round, does actually have corrosion resistance on board. Sound guy, you and I seriously need to talk about getting you some social interaction, because it ain't that kind of penetration. Even the gunpowder is different. The gunpowder on the M855 is Winchester 844. On the new stuff, it is SMP, reads Sierra Mike Papa 842. Don't know what that stuff is. There is no flash suppressant in M855, but there is an M855A1, which is not a bad thing because you don't want to be showing yourself off. Alright, sound guy, I think they get the bit about, showing yourself, but also you give us a copyright hit. Knock that off! So there's a decoppering agent. I don't know what the heck that is. The velocity started out in the M855 as 3113 feet per second. It has been increased on the M855A1. The chamber pressure, well, what was M855 spec, has been increased. The penetration previously was 3/8 inch of mild steel at 160 meters, has been increased to 350 meters with a 3/8 piece of mild steel.
I've got balls of steel.
Wrong kind of steel, sound guy. I gotta get you laid, man. Soft target's not specified. The M855A1, they say, is improved consistency. Translation, it goes splat. Makes a heck of a mess. And people ain't happy about it. Okay, there is a few druthers that you guys probably really truly need to know about this stuff. What it is essentially the round now has become green. Is it actually something you can plant in the ground? You're gonna grow stuff? No, but they say it's better for the environment. I'm waiting for the time where you basically have a little tank on the side of your gun that you dump the diesel exhaust fluid in.
So we're going to San Francisco, put the flowers in your hair.
Shut it, you hippie maggot. Anyway, so what happens now is you have this hot rod little cartridge. It is got problems. Of course, they say it's suitable for most weapons with a 1-in-7 barrel twist. They'll stabilize it. No weapon not specified will probably still shoot it, but it won't be as accurate. Still works. The thing is now it's been optimized for shorter barrel M4s, with the standard M855 was optimized for the M16 with a 20-inch barrel. The powder burns faster, creates more pressure, and has the effect of reducing flash. Oh, what the hell was that, sound guy? Oh, anti-flash suppressive drops. Okay, you were doing it in an echo chamber. Got it, thanks. Wait a minute, what the hell do you know about making gunpowder in the first place? Thought so. The round yaws like the M855, but its yaw is more consistent and predictable, meaning the terminal effects are not yaw dependent. Translation, the round goes in and makes a heck of a splat. The Army plans to replace its entire inventory of M855 rounds with the M855A1 round, probably very soon. So that's something I'm looking at now on like military.com and kind of riffing on it. Okay, let's fix the problem that didn't exist in the first place. The M855 cartridge was not good to begin with. SS-109, green tip rounds. I mean, it's basically something they gave over to the military and those guys are running and gunning with it. That said, it is beating the guns up. It is not as nice to your guns as better rounds that weigh less. You don't gain that much ballistic efficiency by shooting a heavier bullet in the 5.56, running hotter chamber pressure, and running a bullet that is not homogeneous in the first place, because that's your problem with the M855 in the first place, is the fact it is a steel penetrator. Bad sound guy. Bad sound guy. not this time. I'm claiming executive privilege and removing the penetrator. Well, that sound effect, at least for this one. With a lead core and some copper swaged around it, and it's not going to be consistent as a target round. That steel piece inside is not going to be concentric every single trip of the train. It is not a target cartridge. Now, also going over to the 855A1, there's a couple problems. One, it is a long cartridge. I don't care what they say. It is a long cartridge. The bullet tip is not a copper tip going up the feed ramp. It is a steel hardened penetrator. Well, let's just see what that sounds like. First fired at normal speed, then inside we'll hear with an internal mic what it sounds like with those little bullets hitting the feed lips. Alright, that sounded fairly standard. Let's see what it sounds like on the inside. Yeah, so what's the next sound coming from your gun when you look in the interior and take a look at your feed lips? You might hear something that sounds a little bit like this. Yeah, it kind of sounds a little bit like that. It's not good for your gun. It's wearing out the feed ramps. It's beating up the rounds going into the chamber. It's beating up barrel extension. It's beating up the receiver. It's beating up the feed ramps. Right off the bat, they say this thing has got major problems killing their guns. So, the military now has fixed the problem with another problem, and unfortunately, as opposed to simply going with a better cartridge in the first place, which they could have done. They could have done that anything in it's like 6.5 or the 300 blackout for like the first 200 yards. This is a very nice little cartridge. You don't need to change much with a 300 blackout. All you do is just simply change the barrel. It uses the same gun. It uses the same magazine. Hell, it even uses the same basic cartridge with not a whole heck of a lot of modifications other than simply open up the nose and going, hey, you're not going to feed a 30 rounder versus a 22 rounder. There's a lot better stuff out there. Simply just going, okay, we're going to take this thing, we're going to stretch it out. And then we're going to fist this in here and squeeze that and turn this and... It was the solution that is not good. Oh, also, manufacturing problems. Making this stuff has been unbelievably not good. It came out, it started as $13 a round. Yep, that's how the American taxpayer is feeling looking at the price of $13 per round. Considering they bought a crap ton of it and they've worked up to the point where they actually make production levels now, it's now down to only 36 cents a round. Well, it still is killing the guns. That's the expensive part. You probably should make the ammo fit the gun versus the gun fitting the ammo, which is kind of what they try to do. That's like saying, you know what, your car is going to run on nitroglycerin, but it's not good for the gun, but well, we'll simply just make the gun even bigger and able to handle the nitroglycerin. It's like, what about if we just use gunpowder? No. You got to use nitroglycerin because it gives you more power. Dude, did you ever happen to watch the Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner cartoons? Yeah, they came up with Acme ammunition. Ugh. All right, folks, I'm going to break up on this one. M855A1 is not a fix. It's a really, really bad solution to a maximum problem of using not a big enough gun for shooting a hot rod cartridge. It really just needs more barrel. Just get a better cartridge. Yeah, break up on this one, guys. Eat your keep it as always, you know it, you love it, and catch you guys later, and good stuff like that there. M855A1 is not a winner. See you guys.